After Israel pounds Beirut's southern suburbs again, is Iran now signaling that the next phase of this war could come from above, with a chilling watch the sky tonight warning aimed straight at Israelis? With one lawmaker hinting that a decisive and painful response could land within hours, is Iran's IRGC preparing to move from vague threats to a timed retaliation that Israel and its allies must now brace for? Has Israel's latest strike on Beirut's Dahiyeh suburb effectively opened a new front, as Tehran delivers a dark new warning that treats attacks on Hezbollah's stronghold as direct provocations against Iran itself? Amid growing heat over alleged spying on Trump's team, is Benjamin Netanyahu now breaking ranks from the U.S. over Lebanon, escalating strikes just as Washington pushes hard to contain the northern front? As Israeli jets hit Beirut again, Tehran is hinting that a painful response could come within hours, suggesting that the window between Israeli action and Iranian retaliation is shrinking fast. On June 7, Iranian MP Ebrahim Rezaei publicly urged Israelis to watch the sky tonight, turning his social media post into a veiled countdown for whatever Iran might unleash. Rezaei promised a decisive and painful reply to Israel's latest attacks on Beirut, signaling that Tehran wants to be seen as directly answering strikes on Hezbollah's home turf. His threat followed fresh Israeli airstrikes on Hezbollah targets in Beirut's Dahiyeh suburb, a stronghold that has long been treated as the movement's political and military heartland. Rezaei said, and I quote, "We will deliver a decisive and painful response to the Zionist regime's attack on Dahiyeh. These rabid dogs must be disciplined and put back in their place. Look at the sky over the occupied lands tonight." Unquote. The I.D.F. said its latest strikes on Beirut targeted Hezbollah command infrastructure, framing the operation as a direct response to rocket fire launched at northern Israel. Lebanon state media reported that at least 2 people were killed and 11 others wounded in the attack, adding to the civilian toll in heavily built-up urban areas. The bombing raised immediate fears of a wider escalation along the Israel-Hezbollah front, with diplomats warning that each new strike on Beirut increases the risk of full-blown war. Israel said it ordered the strike after Hezbollah fired projectiles toward northern communities, insisting that it was acting in self-defense against cross-border attacks. According to the I.D.F., 2 projectiles crossed from Lebanese territory before being intercepted, underlining how regularly air defense alerts are now sounding across the Galilee. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the attack on Dahiyeh was a direct response to Hezbollah fire, vowing that any rocket launched at Israel will bring heavy blows deep inside Lebanon. Security sources said residents were once again fleeing Dahiyeh, fearing that this strike could be the first in a new wave of bombardments against the crowded southern suburb. Israel had mostly paused airstrikes on Beirut after the US-backed ceasefire on April 16, making this latest raid a worrying sign that restraint around the capital may be slipping. Even during that lull over Beirut, fighting between the I.D.F. and Hezbollah continued across southern Lebanon, with artillery duels, drone strikes, and raids never fully stopping. As regional tensions climbed and Iran's warnings grew louder, a deadly shooting attack struck central Israel on June 7, highlighting how violence on the borders and unrest at home are now feeding into the same volatile moment. 1 person was killed and 5 others were injured in a shooting attack in Israel on June 7. Reuters reported, citing Israel's ambulance service, that the attack took place in central Israel. Reuters said the suspected terror incident was reported near the occupied West Bank. Israeli police said the suspected shooter was neutralized, according to Reuters. Police added that large forces remain at the scene and searches are continuing. A 35-year-old man died of gunshot wounds, while 5 others were wounded, Reuters reported. 2 of the injured were in serious condition, Reuters said, citing the ambulance service. According to Reuters, the shootings took place in 3 separate areas in central Israel. Notably, Hamas praised the shooting but did not claim responsibility for the attack. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he had conducted a security assessment. Netanyahu added that he was monitoring what he described as the deadly shooting attack, Reuters reported. The Pentagon has reportedly grown increasingly concerned about Israeli espionage efforts inside the United States. Israel is said to have gathered intelligence on senior figures in the Trump administration. The targeted officials were reportedly directly involved in shaping U.S. policy on Iran. According to reports, Israel allegedly targeted Steve Witkoff and senior Pentagon officials. Top Pentagon officials Elbridge Colby and Michael Domino were among those reportedly targeted. Israel reportedly sought to learn Washington's position in negotiations with Tehran. I-24 news citing New York Times reported, and I quote, "Some officials may have been especially exposed because they used private planes, discussed sensitive business on personal phones and at times declined embassy support abroad." Unquote. The new disclosure follows an earlier NBC report on alleged Israeli espionage efforts in the United States. Notably, Israel's embassy in Washington denied spying, while the White House rejected the earlier report. U.S. Israel tensions deepened after NBC reported new Pentagon concerns regarding alleged Israeli intelligence activities. NBC cited current and former U.S. officials who said those concerns emerged within the U.S. government in recent weeks. The report said the Defense Intelligence Agency raised Israel's threat level assessment to critical in an internal review. Officials told NBC the assessment reflected concerns over what they described as aggressive Israeli intelligence activity. The concerns reportedly centered on efforts to learn more about President Trump's plans and strategy for the Middle East. NBC said U.S. officials believed Israel was seeking greater insight into internal policy discussions and deliberations. The internal assessment was said to include concerns about both human intelligence and technical espionage risks. Israel's embassy in Washington rejected the claims and described the allegations as completely false. Israeli embassy spokesperson said, and I quote, "Israel does not gather intelligence on American entities, let alone U.S. government officials. Israel intelligence collection efforts aimed at its enemies, not its allies. Any claims to the contrary are either misinformed or politically motivated." Unquote. The White House also pushed back against the report, saying it was based on information it considered inaccurate. The Pentagon declined to comment publicly, while the Office of the Director of National Intelligence did not address the report. NBC said U.S. officials viewed the alleged activity as extending beyond what is typically expected between allied nations. The report surfaced as Trump and Netanyahu remained at odds over how to handle the future of the Iran conflict. Trump has continued to pursue diplomatic engagement with Tehran, while Israel has favored a more hardline approach. The report followed a recent heated phone call between Trump and Netanyahu regarding Israeli strikes in Lebanon. NBC had previously reported that Trump expressed frustration with Israel's military actions during recent discussions. Trump later confirmed that he had referred to Netanyahu as crazy during the sharp exchange. A rare public disagreement has exposed growing tensions between two of the closest allies in the Middle East. Trump acknowledged using the controversial remark during a heated conversation with the Israeli leader. The U.S. president indicated that Israel's ongoing campaign in Lebanon had become a major source of frustration. The remarks were made publicly during a podcast interview, turning a private dispute into an international headline. Donald Trump said, and I quote, "I was a little bit perturbed at his constantly fighting with Lebanon. At some point I said, we got to stop this. We got to stop it." Unquote. Reports suggest Trump personally pushed for restraint, warning against actions that could further inflame the region. Even after the sharp exchange, Trump emphasized that his relationship with Netanyahu remains strong and intact.